They let me pick. Did I ever tell you that? Choose whichever game I wanted. You know me. I did my research. Watched as you became the shooter we needed you to be. Like the others, you were sweaty and salty and fun. A natural classic. But you had something they didn't. Something no one saw but me. Can you guess? $18 Mr. Chief bundle.
Don't let your ball drop, Spartan.
My friends, it's been a long 9 years. 9 years ago was the last time that I've been excited for a new Halo. Coming off the coattails of Reach, my excitement had never been higher. But then Halo 4 came out, and it was... But then Halo 5 was announced. I gotta admit, those Halo 5 trailers were pretty hype. They definitely made me interested. But then I played the game. It was a disappointment to say the least. But then out of nowhere, 3 years after Halo 5, Xbox drops this bombshell. It was single-handedly the most beautiful scene since when Chief said goodbye to Cortana in Halo 4. Okay guys, I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty freaking good. Oh, what's that? Can you hear that? The hype train's starting back up again. Oh my god, it's so dusty. Since that trailer, Halo Infinite has been the game that I've been looking forward to the most. That and maybe Elder Scrolls 6, but don't worry, my Elder Scrolls hype has been somewhat sated since I bought Skyrim for the 5th time.
You, finally awake.
But now that Halo Infinite is out, how do I feel? I feel like it's my duty, my mission to tell the world if this Halo game is good, or not. How do I know what I'm talking about? Spoiler, I don't. But I have been playing Halo for over 10 years, which really isn't a lot when compared to other people now that I'm thinking about it, but 10 years is still a long time. So trust me, I know what I'm talking about. So guys, it's time to do this. I'm going to be getting into the good, the bad, and the ugly for the newest installment in the Halo series, Halo Infinite. Before I get started, there will be spoilers in this video. Nothing too crazy, but if you don't want the campaign spoiled, go ahead and come back to this video later. Okay, now let's get started. Well, to put it as blunt as a bloodthirsty grunt,
Your scorpions are dumb and you are dumb!
I really like this game. I don't love it, but I really like it. I mean, look at it this way. We had to stifle through years of shit!
It took you long enough?
Ugh! Just to get close to the last good Halo game, which was Halo Reach. After all the, quote, innovations that 343 added to the game, it seemed like the only thing that Halo needed was a return to form, and that is exactly what Infinite feels like. Let's compare Halo Infinite's opening to Halo 5's. Halo 5 opens with this over-the-top scene with the Spartans flying in and doing ground pounds and just decimating the Covenant. It's cool, but it feels very out of place for Halo. It's almost like the game is trying so hard to be cool, but it backfires because Halo, at least to me, never felt like it was trying to be cool, it just was. At the end of Halo 1, Master Chief didn't get on the Pelican by doing front flips and tweaking out, he just ran for his fucking life because he needed to get the hell out of there. I mean, the man is not invincible. For a science fiction video game franchise, Halo has also felt very grounded. It made the events that happened in the games feel more important because the characters' actions and reactions were believable. As soon as you see characters doing things like this, and like this, those feelings go out the window. Now, let's look at Infinite's opening. Master Chief isn't doing flips or 360 no-scopes, he's struggling to come out of this firefight aboard the Infinity. He's taking hits just as much as he's giving them. Then, when Atriox comes in, he hits him with a 1-2 Shoryuken before getting bested and losing. This immediately puts Master Chief's strength into perspective. He's tough, but not a hyperactive cartoon character demolishing everything in his path. This helps establish the tone for the story ahead, but Master Chief does not contribute to that alone. All of the characters here are great. By the end, even the antagonist, Escharum, starts to become likable as the parallels between him and Master Chief become more clear. I love how he isn't just another villain of the week. He comes off like that at first, but I really appreciate the time and depth that they gave to this character. My favorite character is probably the pilot. As the guy in the sky, the pilot gives Chief a lift all around the Halo ring, and while he is very pessimistic at first, seeing the Chief's exploits and victories changes him to more of an optimist and is willing to help in any way he can. The final character I'm going to mention is the weapon. Now, us gamers have spent years traveling with Cortana, so the new girl on the block has a lot to live up to. Before I played the game, I was very skeptical and curious to see how they were going to handle the situation. After all, 343 kinda went balls to the wall with Cortana in Halo 5. But here I am now after playing it, and I'm happy to say that I love her. She's so chipper and always seems to have something to say about what's happening.
Incoming.
But what if it's a friend?
It isn't.
You were right. He was not friendly.
She proves herself as not just a stand-in for Cortana, but as a well-earned character in her own right. Obviously, there is so much more to say about the characters, but believe me, you don't need a fat neckbeard spoiling what the story has to offer, and it does have to offer a lot. So definitely experience it for yourself if you can. Before I move on to the gameplay, I want to mention something that I'm not sure how to categorize. This game in many ways feels like the Rise of Skywalker for the Halo series.
Say what?
Before you click off the video, hear me out. What I mean by that is that Infinite feels like it's trying to correct the mistakes that were in Halo 5, just like what the Rise of Skywalker did with The Last Jedi. I remember that after Halo 5 I was thinking, well, what the hell are they gonna do now? It felt like they wrote themselves into a hole, making Cortana this omnipotent being. I had a very similar feeling at the end of The Last Jedi. They killed Snoke? Well, what the hell's gonna happen now? The only difference is that Infinite used this opportunity to move the series forward in a better direction, while The Rise of Skywalker just felt like a meandering, pandering, callback fest. Infinite actually took many things that I didn't like from 4 and 5 and actually improved them. For example, the Spartan 4s. I always thought that the lore for the Spartans was super interesting. Spartan 2s were children handpicked by Dr. Halsey who were stolen from their homes and replaced by clones who would eventually die to cover up for the missing kids. These kids were trained to be stronger than any normal human, and this is what Master Chief is. The Spartan 3s were also made up of kids, specifically orphans, but these kids weren't kidnapped like before. They were given a choice. They could either stay in their current situation or be trained to fight the Covenant to avenge their families who were killed by their hands. And then there are the Spartan 4s. They were just adults who enlisted into the Spartan 4 program.
Boring.
I mean, yeah, it's practical, but it takes away from the mystique that the Spartans carry with them. For years in Halo, seeing a Spartan on the battlefield was almost like a myth because they were so rare. You can see this in the games with how people react when seeing one. But okay, now I guess there's like 1,000 of them, and they all live together on a giant spaceship. In Halo 4 we get our first look at these Spartan 4s, and the first thing that we hear one of them say to Master Chief is this.
I thought you'd be taller.
Bitch, are you for real?
Right from the beginning, the Spartan 4s came off as wannabes and failed to capture the intimidating presence that came with the previous Spartan generations. This also carried into Halo 5. Again, going back to that opening cutscene, the Spartan 4s are trying to be so cool, but in the end, it makes them look less impactful to the audience because they're built up as seemingly having no weaknesses, even to Master Chief and the rest of Blue Team. This, however, changes completely in Infinite. There are several Spartan 4s that you can find playing through the campaign, and each of them have an effect on Chief that humanizes both him and the 4s. These Spartans are portrayed as powerful, but human. You can see how Master Chief internalizes his sadness and regret after he finds their bodies. Though he is a Spartan too, he still looks at these newer soldiers as family. They're all in the same fight together, and even though he wears a helmet, you can still see the emotion on his face. Halo Infinite has redeemed Spartan 4s for me. It goes to show that scenes like this...
She was carrying an enhanced shield module. Let's see what I can find out about her. Accessing. This is Spartan Bonita Stone, recon specialist. Her vitals have been offline for nearly a month.
are better than this. This is arguably the best Halo campaign since Reach. However, while the campaign is enjoyable, it definitely has its shortcomings. The general gameplay that Infinite has is fantastic, but it feels like there should be a little more for a AAA game that was delayed for a year. The combat feels very familiar for anyone who's ever played Halo, but the addition of the new abilities, specifically the grapple hook, make the combat and the mobility so refreshing. The only issue is that there's a pretty big map to explore, but there are invisible walls that prevent you from accessing areas if you aren't far enough in the story. This definitely limits exploration, which is a shame because the things that you can find here are fun. Saving Marines from capture is probably my favorite thing to do, although I wish that the Marines as as a concept was a little more fleshed out. It would be cool if you could send them out on missions like you could in Metal Gear Solid 5 or Assassin's Creed. Or if you could eventually find ODSTs or even other Spartans, it would be awesome. What we do have though is the Valor system, and how you can unlock different types of Marines is a good way to have some sort of sandbox progression in the campaign. The Halo that the game takes place on looks gorgeous, but is visually repetitive. The first Halo game had a variety of locations like beaches, swamps, and snowy canyons. I wish that locations like this were in Infinite. The only scenery there is open wooded and mountain areas. Like I said, it is pretty, but repetitive. But all of these aspects of the game are experienced by people alone, by themselves. Everything is more fun with friends, so let's get into the multiplayer and social areas that the game has to offer. Halo Infinite differs from past installments because of its very nature. I think I read that 343 has a 10-year plan for this game, meaning that there will be drops of content sprinkled throughout the upcoming years. That's great and all, but what about now? How does Infinite stand in its current state compared to the other Halo games? After all, is it fair to judge something how it will be in the future, or how it is now? It's a tricky situation, but I'll try my best to take both philosophies into account. I think now, Halo Infinite is like a seed. Right now it's small, only has a few leaves on it, game modes, and is in critical need of water, content. But if it keeps getting cared for and nourished, it'll grow into something special. At launch, Infinite's multiplayer released with 6 game modes, but only 3 playlists. You couldn't just play a game of Slayer if you wanted to. You had to hope for the best while you load up a game of Quick Play. That is terrible. People should be able to play what they want, when they want, not spin a wheel and hope for the best. Game modes like Infection, Forge, and Firefight are only a small fraction of what's missing. Many of these game modes are what people would say are staples, absolute necessities to Halo. It would be like releasing a Pokemon game without Pikachu. But again, going back to that long-term plan, 343 has since released more game modes, namely Fiesta and SWAT. Or wait, Tactical Slayer? Ugh, really? Anyways, it does suck that these great things aren't in the game now, but that means that the only way the multiplayer can go is up. Or does it? Amongst the community right now, the biggest problem isn't with the gameplay, which, I mean, thank God. No, Infinite's gameplay is beautiful. The biggest problem with Infinite is the content that is in the game, but not accessible. Unless, of course, you shell out that money, baby, yeah! Look, we live in a new age. Microtransactions are generally accepted in games now. But this? $10 for tiny cat ears on a Spartan? That's outrageous! 343 is definitely monetizing Infinite way too much. Think of it this way, the campaign is retailed at exactly $60 in the US. That means that these cat ears are essentially 1/6 of the campaign in terms of monetary value. Are you kidding me? This stuff should be like $1 or $2 at most. A battle pass, I can handle. Personally, I've never purchased one for any other game until now, but I have no problem paying $10 to unlock 100 different things. What I do have a problem with though is that the battle pass, at least for now, is the only sense of progression that there is. That is very concerning. I loved working towards that next rank in Reach. Even if I finished all the challenges for credits, I always was working towards ranking up. I want to look back on Infinite in 20 years and say, yeah, I was a Triple Nova Brigadier General, and be proud of it. After hitting 100 on the Battle Pass, I haven't been playing as much. Infinite is definitely still fun, but it feels like I don't have anything to work towards now. I do really like how they're having events interlaced within each season though. That definitely feels like a positive addition, and is a good motivator to jump back on and keep playing. Thankfully, 343 has reduced the price of all the items in the store and have further said that in Season 2, players will be able to earn credits in-game to use on store items. This is a huge change and one that I think will put 343 in everybody's good graces. But despite all the flaws that this game has, it should be noted that Halo Infinite's multiplayer is free for everyone. To top it all off, it's crossplay, meaning that I can play with my friends who are on PC while I'm on my Xbox. I think we're at a point where every game should have crossplay, and I'm glad that Halo Infinite is one of those games. As it stands, the content that is currently in Infinite is a little on the small side, which is a part of the reason why people are so mad that 343 is being so steep with a little bit of extra content that is available, like armors and skins. Oh, and can we eventually mix and match armor pieces and at least have some basic color combos? Giving players just these things will go a long way in my opinion. Putting restrictions on customization is a move that services the online store rather than the player, and that has to change. Despite the little content at launch and the politics that come with playing Infinite, I do fully believe that Halo is back, and it's been a long time. It's like seeing an old friend after a rough journey. I would recommend that everyone get the multiplayer. At the very least, it's another game that you can play with your friends for free, and that is never a bad thing. For people who are on the fence or are big fans of Halo that just haven't gotten the campaign yet, I would say go for it. I haven't had this much fun playing a Halo campaign since Reach. It's able to capture that classic Halo feeling without seeming like it's trying too hard to be nostalgic, and also does a great job of feeling innovative at the same time. Halo Infinite almost feels like many of the problems that it has are artificial and are not part of its core elements. It seems like no one is complaining about the gameplay, or the story, or the graphics. All of those things are so well done. It's the constant push towards purchasing extra accessories from the online store that 343 seems to incentivize above all else. As it stands, Halo Infinite is a fun first-person shooter that has amazing and addictive gameplay that coincides with an inspirational and hopeful story. Its multiplayer and customization, while at its core are great, are held back by its lack of game modes and selective customization choices. Of course, the customization opens up the more you open up your wallet, but even as I speak, 343 is making strides to better this experience. In a way, I'm completely okay with the 10-year plan for this game. Hopefully the reviews for Infinite now versus later will be night and day in comparison. But what do you guys think? Have you been playing Infinite? Are you enjoying it? And to those who haven't played it yet, will you get it in the future? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I would love if you considered subscribing. Not subscribing, but just considering it. What I do want you to do though, is have a great day. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some more Halo to play. Thanks again, and take care.